Are you ready to level up?
I'm Ethan.
And I'm Travis.
You're listening to the LevelUp Business and Life podcast,
where we talk to the top business entrepreneurs to learn their level up secrets
and get their tips and tricks to level up your business and life. Level up your business and life today.
Last week we did a podcast for my master class.
Yep.
And this week we are doing your financial fitness.
Yep, absolutely. This week we're going to start doing a series about financial fitness around different concepts for business owners specifically. So business owners, entrepreneurs, they have some unique challenges in terms of the finances because you work your butt off and you create a business which in theory has a lot of value to it. So how do you capitalize on that, or how do you take care of your finances around there as well? So just a unique perspective. So every Friday we're going to be doing something for a little Financial Friday, but we're just giving you information, giving you different topics that could most business owners could find helpful. So today we're going to be talking about having a design mindset while building about finance. So what I mean by that is when you build your business, you keep a certain design mindset at the forefront of your mind. So as you scale, as you go face the challenges you normally do with the business, how do you make still make right calls financially?
When you say design mindset, what does that mean?
So design mindset is so instead of when I put together my business, for example, right, or come up with the business plan, if you come up with the design mindset such as all right, what do I want to do with my business? How do I want to make money off of it? Because let me ask you this. So there's a lot of people that get into business for different reasons. Why did you start up your business?
I started my businesses. Well, I always knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to make an impact in people's lives. Well, how do you do that from a marketing perspective? I work very closely with a lot of entrepreneurs and help them out and provide value to them. That's how why I got into it.
Do you work for free?
No.
No, most people don't. You don't really have a business unless you have some sort of income, and so that's the why behind you start your business. But at the same time, you want to make some money, right?
Right. So what you're essentially saying is this design thinking is essentially building out the design of your financial infrastructure for your business.
Correct. So for example, I got into business for various reasons. I'm doing what I'm doing because I love what I do, and I want to help people as well. That's the main reason why I do it. But at the same time, we all need to make a living. We all need to put food on the table, and I want to make some money at the same time. So how do you do that? So when I went and built my businesses, 814 Works, for example, is one of them. I specifically designed it with a scale mindset. So what I mean by that is I deferred taking or minimized what I take out as a draw to myself for as long as possible so I could reinvest every dollar I can back into the business to scale it as possible. So that's what I mean by design. So when I got into it, before I got into it, I thought, okay, what do I want my business to do? How do I want to capitalize off of my business to its maximum extent? Do I want to pay myself a massive salary as quickly as I could? No. Do I want to give myself a small salary right off the bat to maximize tax deductions, but also to minimize, to lower the ability to scale as aggressively as I can? But again, it keeps me okay. It keeps me afloat, so I can work on the business harder. So what I mean by design is try to take that into account. Think of what position do I want in my business? How quickly do I want to scale it? Where do I want my business to go? Is the intention to sell the business as quickly as possible? Is that how I'm going to capitalize off it? Do I love it? And is this going to be my lifestyle business? Mm-hmm. Am I going to continue running it as long as I can? In which case that would be different. On what you do would be different around that. Do you want it a cash flow business which just runs and just creates cash flow and you can go do something else? The design is, okay, what's the end goal for me? How do I make money off of this thing? How is it worth my time building a business versus a nonprofit? That's what I'm talking about.
You talked a little bit about cash flow. I work with so many different types of companies, and they all have different types of cash flow, from profits to nonprofits. I had a meeting yesterday with United Way and Matt Spangler and Bill McKinney, and how they determine success is a whole lot different from how a for-profit business accounts for success.
Mm-hmm.
They're helping people. They determine success by how well they're able to serve the community. The business, how well you can serve your customers. It's the same game. It's just different names for different things, and attaining customers differently. So how do you get customers? And that leads directly into setting up what your cash flow looks like. Because my hustle looks a lot different than your hustle does. And the next person and the next person.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, setting up, positioning yourself so people come in and get those new clients. That's how you make the money in the first place. So that's why marketing and finance goes so hand to hand. It is. You think of it as this way: marketing brings them in the door, and then once you close them, then you actually get them to purchase whatever product service you have. Then from there, what do you do with the money? And that's where finance comes in. So it's the management of the funds. If you don't invest them intelligently or apply them intelligently towards your business, it doesn't matter how much money you get in. If you just sit on it and doesn't do anything for you, then the business isn't going to run. It doesn't matter if you have the greatest market in the world, and vice versa. It doesn't matter if you have the greatest management of the finances in the world. If you have none coming in, then you're kind of screwed. So that combination is a very, very potent combination in the business world, right? Because you need to have.
Which is also why you and I work so well, because we manage very important arms of the company. Right. And we'll bring in Jose, and he can talk a little bit about the ops end as well. Yeah. He's just a wizard whenever it comes to dealing with managing people and managing what your operations look like. What's your SOP, your standard operating procedures. Mm-hmm. Those are other key elements of your biz.
Well, this is a topic for another time, but I would argue that those are the three pillars of business: is marketing, finance, and management. And those are what I would argue as the three key ones.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So we're talking
today,
two of the three right now.
Today we're going to dive into the finance.
The finance piece. So getting back to what we were talking about the design mindset. So it's very important when you get started to understand not only why you're doing it and the vision. You want the vision of the business, what you want it to look like, but also understand and design and what you want to do on the finance side. So again, that's how do you capitalize on how hard you work? You bust your ass, you should get something back at some point for it. So just keep these rules in mind. These are the big rules of when it comes to finance and at least scaling up. Every stage of your business lifestyle, the growth, maturity, or the startup growth and maturity stage, etc. Every stage you have some different priorities depending on where you are, different struggles. It's different for everybody. So this is more geared towards startup stage, if you will, kind of designing what you want your business to look like. Because if you're already growing, you already have your business in play, and you want to keep this in mind, but that's where the design mindset comes into play. So a couple rules is first, the less you pay yourself, the more you can pour back in the business, the more you scale. It's pretty simple math there. But the idea behind this is, again, it depends if you're full lifestyle business, if you're side hustle, whatever that looks like. That's just the rule of thumb.
I call that the baller on the budget rule.
Yeah, it's true.
The PB&J.
100%. The longer you defer it, even if you have the cash flow from your business to be able to pay yourself something, if you can still defer it, then think of it this way. Now you're paying the business instead of you paying yourself. And if you get paid more, and if the business has more reinvested in it, they're paid to it, then it can spend more on things that will help it.
Now, you've ran many financial. I've actually sat through a financial class of yours, which was phenomenal. And one of the key elements that we talked about, having a lean budget. And that related directly into this as well. You as a person, you are a person that's starting a company. What are some of the key items of a lean budget that people tend to kind of cut out of their budget to be more effective?
Well, that's a tough call because it varies a lot, right? The easy one is stop eating out so much, stop going out and getting coffee. If you join a space like A14 Works, now you have free coffee as much as you want, so you don't have to go to Starbucks as much. Maybe buy a cheap maker and make it at home. You'd be surprised how much over time a cup of coffee in the morning actually adds up. And if you just apply that principle to meals, eating out, so that's probably the most typical one.
Mm-hmm.
But then you just have to then it varies from person to person. That one typically most people can pull out. I wouldn't say across the board, but a lot, yeah. But for business owners, and especially, one trap that you need to be careful about is lunch meetings, right? So lunch meetings everybody goes to, and they are a necessity. But with the recent tax code, you need to be careful about. You can still deduct meals, but and then this is, I'm not a CPA by any means, but this is I apply this to my businesses. Just bear that in mind. But entertainment you can no longer deduct. So if it is if it can be strewn or perceived as entertainment as opposed to lunch, then you need to be careful about that. So what my point of that is, you used to be able to go to lunch, take them out for clients, and justify it by writing it off in the back end. Can't do that as much. Still want to do lunch meetings, but just bear in mind that maybe you eat before, and when you go out to lunch, you just get an appetizer. Maybe you pack yourself a lunch, eat something, and just let the person you're meeting with, hey, I'm actually I'm good. I already ate or whatever. So then you don't have to pay. Maybe just buy a coffee or something just to make everybody happy.
Or you could be like me and just keep most of my meetings virtual.
Or most of the meetings virtual. That's a good way too.
Yeah, but seriously, that's a lot of what I do. I keep if I have a choice, and the person I'm working with is willing, especially with some of my national clients. I can't be there. If they want me there, they're going to pay a price. But if we're doing it virtual, I keep it one price across the board because it's a convenience. Where companies are tacking on convenience fees, I'm more reasonable because I'm one fee across the board. Right. And it's easy. I get it, but it's the convenience of it.
No, and it's true, and that's the wonderful thing about being online or the internet is you aren't limited to where you are geographically. So, and that's another benefit of it is you don't have to pay extra money for that. So that's what I'm talking about. There's a lot of small little things that you can always tweak with budgeting, and that's we won't go into that right now. That'll be for another time.
Yeah, I'd love to do one because as a marketer, I've always I've worn many hats, and have had to find feasible solutions for marketing at cheap or preferably free. Right. And there are some great things out there that can just explode your business and explode your capabilities.
See, the interesting thing is marketing is, in my mind, more on the creative side because it's not really black or white, right? I would argue, essentially limitless ways to market. It's about how creative you can get and how much you stick out in somebody's mind. Finance is a lot more black and white. Yeah. There's things you should do.
Or red and black.
Exactly. It depends which one you see. But But it's a lot. There's a lot of creativity, but you always have rules, right? Yeah. It's not like
you got to play by their rules, whoever they are.
You just need to be, flexible and smart and creative around how do you combine everything together. So it's not, it's not limitless. It's not.
It's a marriage of all. It really is.
Yeah, you got to be. You got to have.
Because
the right attitude.
if one thing ain't like you said earlier, if one thing ain't working right.
Yeah.
The other thing ain't working right.
And it could be good and it could be bad depending on how it goes. Yeah. So.
What's the divorce rate? It's like 52%.
Yeah. So, but absolutely it is, and actually that falls nice into the second rule. Is going back to the black and white piece. Is like cash flow is always going to be king. That cliche, 100% is true, especially in finance. But the thing about it is, on the startups especially, but in general, most businesses, or I shouldn't say most businesses, if your business is structured correctly, then as it should be, at least when you're scaling, the business doesn't supply the cash flow, then guess who actually supplies the cash flow? That becomes you. So another way to think about it as a startup is that you don't have a budget, you don't have personal and business, you have cash flow, business cash flow, period. If you don't become an LLC S Corp and you make money, you're technically a sole proprietorship, which means that you are responsible for everything in the business. Yeah. And so you don't have personal and business. You have business. That's it. And so think of it that way. If you become LLC S Corp, there's still ways to get in that same mindset, and eventually you can get to corporate, actually corporation incorporated, but that's never right off the bat. That's down the road. Mm-hmm. So until you get to that point, you are always going to be just you, and that's cash flow. So look at it as a business owner. This is not, I'm not spending I'm not, buying McDonald's, I'm not buying Wendy's, I'm not buying Arby's. I know you like Arby's.
They've got the bean.
Right. But I'm not spending something as Travis. I'm spending something as my business, right? Whatever you take away from you as a person, you're taking away from the business. Just keep that in mind as you're building, because cash flow is the lifeblood of a business. Without being able to reinvest, without being able to do that, you need the cash flow. So always just have that mentality. And so going back to that budgeting piece we're talking about, so it's just simple budgeting strategies for personal, but because your person is the cash flow of the business.
So we're talking about sole proprietors at this point.
Right.
Let's just stick with that, because let's stick with the sole props, because those are usually the like myself, I'm a sole prop, but I also have LLCs. But
well, that's the thing, is an LLC, if and not, don't want to get too much in the grains here, but basically you can structure an LLC so you get what's called flow throughs. Mm-hmm. Which is what an S corp is, and that means that any deductions that you have or losses in the business, you can write off of your personal taxes. Okay. So until you are designated to be taxed corporate on the corporate level, mm-hmm. which means that you have a separate entity versus one. So until you create that separate entity with its own tax code, which would be and you'd be taxed as a corporate, and that's probably an LLC. You have your own EIN with LLC right now.
I have one for my sole prop as well.
So, as a sole prop, okay. The difference is that LLCs you're not legally liable from a personal standpoint for any debt or anything out there like if you're sued or your business is sued, sole proprietorship, you have no protection. LLC just gives you an extra layer of it. So they're going after the LLC as opposed to, Travis. Okay. So that's the idea behind those business entities. And going back to what I was saying is that why cash flow is essentially the business and personal when you're sole prop, and some LLCs and like S corps and some of those other ones is because that, if you lose money in your business, mm-hmm. then that goes to your personal taxes, which can help, mm-hmm. cannot. It just depends on the situation. So you are responsible for that money now. You are responsible for the business. That's what happens. So if as a sole prop, we'll stick with the sole prop. That's what you need to be careful about, is just make sure your cash flow is strong, because it's your personal as well as business. So keep that in mind, and that's all going back to the design. Then the final piece is that keep in mind that businesses tend to be very illiquid, and what I mean by that is that businesses tend to not get, they're a little hard to make your money, right? Unless you have paying yourself a salary. You say you build a business to a multi-million-dollar business, right? Where, how and when will you be able to, capitalize off of that business? It's you get somebody to buy it from you, or you sell it on the open market, or basically you need somebody to stroke a check for you somewhere. So it becomes very difficult to capitalize on it, because what if nobody wants to, stroke a check, or when you want to take a step back, it's a 2008 and your business was in the bad part and you lose everything.
Let me take a step back real quick. So how do you know how much to pay yourself?
Well, that's a tough one. That's actually going back to the design piece. Is you need to understand, when are you going to pay yourself? Are you going to pay yourself enough to sustain yourself and do that as quickly as possible? Are you going to push it back? Are you going to wait extra time and give yourself an extra, more than you need? Like, how do you want to design the payout? Typically, the best way that I've seen to do it is just, again, you want it, the more money you can put into the business, the faster it scales. So you want to pay yourself just your bare essentials, and that's going to, again, to the budget. Now it's responsive. Your budget is the same as the business. Go to your budget, figure out what do you need to live, and that's your number that you should pay yourself. Because if you just, if you pay yourself the absolute necessity, that's it. That's the bare minimum you can pay yourself, right?
So basically, calculate all of your personal. If you're going out getting ready to go out on your own, calculate your personal expenses. Identify how much you have in savings, and then identify how quickly you can start making money. And then figure out if you have enough to sustain yourself until you can start making that move.
So step by step, to break it down, you pretty much nailed it exactly. Is you look at your expenses, typically the last 12 months if you can, but credit card statements, bank statements, whatever. And this is it's a pain in the butt. Nobody likes doing this, but this is how you do it. So you go back, you figure that out, take all your expenses, average them, and it's as simple as adding up all your expenses for the year divided by 12. Like, the more accurate, the better, obviously. Come up with your expenses, boom, this is exactly what I need. Take out, the bullshit ones, like going to movies, going to get coffee, going to get lunch that is not to do with business, all that stuff. Take them out, or at least minimize those as much as possible. And then you add that all together. Okay, now you have an idea of your monthly expenses. After putting them all for the last year, dividing by 12, and this is a rough idea of what you have to live on. I usually like adding a little cushion of about like 10% or so just on top, just so you can put some money in savings for the rainy day fund, and unforeseen business expenses might come up. So you do that. Now you have an idea of your expenses. So back in, if you were doing the design thinking, figure out, okay, this is what I need to live. So this is the bare minimum of exactly what I want to pay myself. Now, like you said, exactly how long will it take in the business? What am I aiming for to have the business cash flow, to make sure that the business is taken care of, first and foremost. The minimum expense for the business is taken care of. And if I have more on top of that, then I can start paying myself a salary. But until you are at that point where the business is more or less running itself, or at least you have very strong reason to believe that by month to month, you can hit the numbers you need to be able to pay yourself. You don't want to even think about it, ideally. You can, but again, going back to it, it makes the business a lot harder to run if you're worrying about yourself first and not the business. So, because in the end, it's coming out of your pocket.
Right. No, once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away, I went out on my own and failed miserably. I was on my own for about a year, and I was like, man, I didn't have the sales chops. It was, we live in a small town. I'm like, hey, social media, digital media, it's here. And everyone's like, no, it's not. I'm like, no, but it is. And they're like, no, it's not. I'm like, no, but it's here. They're like, it's a fad. I'm like, oh, you're killing me. And I'm like, my body's falling apart. I need health insurance. So went back into the corporate world to get my sales chops together, get my refine my marketing skills. Talk about leveling up. That was a huge level up for me. I knew I needed certain skills, so I went out and sought them and got them. But the getting everything together, it's just know that everybody gets to where they're supposed to be in their own time.
You learned a lot of lessons in that.
I did. The financial aspect of it is one of them.
Health insurance is a big thing. We'll cover that some other time, and that's a whole
ball wax.
Whole nother beast.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. You need to, if you come up with a design, figure out what you need, because that's another thing. Like if you can sustain yourself a lot longer if you save up a nice chunk of change before you take the dive, and then you can live off of that for a while and until you start taking a drop in the business, again, scaling up. The longer you can defer paying yourself, the more the business will benefit.
Right. And understand your weaknesses. Understanding your weaknesses, a lot of our weaknesses are the financial aspect of running a business.
I've seen a lot, trust me, buddy. We've been in this field for a while. I've met plenty of business owners that run into that challenge. And there's something I like to call the business owner conundrum that we'll get into a little at some other point. But business, it's a incredibly important part of business, arguably one of the top 3 ones, I would argue. But if nobody likes to talk about it, nobody likes to think about it, which is fine. I understand it's not the most flashy thing in the worord, but
nobody wants to know how sausage is made, right?
Nobody wants to know, man. They just turn their heads.
Right.
They take a bite of it, take a bite of it, and just don't think about it.
That's right, man. It's crazy how
it has to be made somehow, man.
Right. And embracing the processes you hate.
Maybe we can figure a way to make it less painful. That is all we're working on. But anyway, the point is that you think by design. Every business stage has different priorities, and know what stage you are in and think about, all right, what do I want to get out of this business? And it'll be all good. You put in the work and you bust your ass every day. Now, listen to what I say and you'll be able to maximize that pay, dude. That's right. All good.
So let's recap what all we went over so far, because we kind of covered a lot and took some dives here. So we talked about the design thinking.
Design thinking, the 3 rules, the less you pay yourself, the more you pour back in the business, the more you scale. Cash flow is king, and your business doesn't supply the cash flow. When your business doesn't supply the cash flow, that comes back to you. So cash flow is you and the business. And then the businesses generally are illiquid or they're tough to capitalize on the back end. So keep that design in mind and try to keep them somewhat separate so that you always have some money in your pocket when you need it.
Right.
And most importantly is, you can learn how to budget and manage cash flow successfully. It's just, take a look at some things. And we'll talk about that some other time, about actually some strategies on how to do that. But in the end, just keep design key and how you want to make some money off your business.
One of these days, one of these episodes, I want to hit on the how you get paid, B2B versus B2C versus nonprofit versus government, defense. That is literally its own topic. How you get paid in business. So that's what always interested me. I always, how we get paid? Who's paying us? Where's that money come from? Right.
We'll have to do that jointly because that's a little bit of finance and marketing.
Right. Who's signing my checks? Right? That's all I want to know. Who's signing my checks?
So, but yeah. Anyway. That's that. That's financial fitness. So anyway, I'm Ethan and this is Travis. Let us know what else you want to hear about. What other subjects? We've actually touched on a few ones like sales would be good.
Yeah, I'm really loving this because I think it's natural progression. We're like finding all these. We're like, yeah, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. And
make notes, man.
So
make notes.
and we're gonna have some guests on coming up here soon. I'm gonna be on travel for a little bit. But we're gonna do some remote here. I mean, with business development, English, Travis, with business development and sales, sometimes you gotta travel and you gotta be where they are, and that's life. You gotta be able to pivot and put yourself in the best position to make moves. I'm putting together a sales and personal branding training that I am super pumped about as well. I shared some of that with Ethan. So we've got a good bit of stuff coming up for you, and I'm excited just to dive into this because this shit gets me pumped, man.
Yeah, it's exciting. We got a lot of cool things happening. So just tune in, listen up, let us know in the comments and everywhere else where what else you'd like to talk about, what else you'd like to hear, and if there's any questions. And Travis and I can be found on our social media.
Yeah, where are you posting now? Where are you mostly posting?
I'm on 814 Works page. I'm on LevelUp pages. We have all our contact information all over the place.
We do.
What about you, Travis?
Yeah, so I found Instagram is just like one of these like powerhouse.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's something we should talk about.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So like, I'm just loving it, and people messaging me and telling me they love my content. So I'm travscott.official on Instagram. You can also get me at trav.media on Instagram. That's my business page. I usually post up some of my design stuff once I got them done, and try to get people's feedback. And I love seeing what people have to say about different designs I do because I'm actually a designer by trade, superhero by night.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But it's fun, man. This stuff gets me going. Hearing about what everybody's got going on. So yeah, man, that's what we've got going on. And I'm Travis, and this is Ethan. And always level up. Talk to you soon.